And we're ready to go. Thank you.
Okay. We're now officially opening this Government Communications and Engagement Committee for the 15th of September. We have apologies from Councillor Deaker and Councillor Forbes. I move that those apologies be accepted. Do I have a seconder?
Yep.
Those in favour, those against, carried. We have Councillor Hope on Zoom. We have staff member Nick Donnelly on Zoom. And that's the entirety of our Zoom participants today. So we shall move to the public forum. There being none, we shall go to apologies. We've done that. Confirmation of agenda. So move that the agenda be confirmed. Seconded by Councillor Calvert. All those in favour, please say aye. Any conflicts of interest? There are none. Confirmation of minutes. So move from the chair of the minutes of the 10th of March. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Malcolm. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Open actions from the resolutions of the committee. Are there any issues from that councillors would like to raise?
Yes.
Councillor Wilson.
Ongoing matter of the Enviro schools, and I think Andrew was, or the chair was taking that to the mayoral forum. Have we had any advances on whether any councillors are considering taking up the?
So that's I can update Andrew because you did take it to the forum, and the update from that is that there is now an action back with staff to write a letter to go to the chief executive, and it'll be copied back to the mayors and to the chair, that sets out what that process would look like for them to consider through their annual plan process. So we're doing that at the moment, and it'll be with Andrew in the next couple of weeks.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Richard. Something I'm passionate about.
Given that there are no further actions, the resolutions committee will move on to matters for consideration, which is item 7.1, page 10 of your agendas. We have it for you. It's the methodology issue in particular that we will be making a decision on today, but in general, it's to do with the annual survey that was commenced for the first time last year, that looks at how we're going and gives us some feedback from the community about what's good and what's not in terms of the RC and its operations. Richard, do you want to introduce this paper? Do you have anything further to add to what is already written here?
No, nothing further to add. I think it's all in the paper, so happy to move the questions.
All right, okay. Are there any questions of Richard? Councillor Scott.
Yeah, in terms of the original resolution for this, the fact that the bracket 8 to 10 was deemed to be positive, was seen to be too narrow and was seen to be unfair. And so the consideration was whether that should actually be broadened. And that's where these two options have come from, A and B. But I don't believe that the option B is actually a fair situation, because all we've simply done is transferred the unfair designation of 8 to 10 positive to an unfair situation of the negative. So, for example, in the option that has 7 as a positive, it has the option of number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. 4 of them are in that designation. Whereas in the negative, there's only 1, 2, and 3. There's less numbers there. So we've taken an unfair positive situation and now made it an unfair negative situation. And I don't think that is actually right. And I thought to myself, well, surely, there's a better way of actually doing this. So I actually Googled, I forget the words I put in. And what actually came out was that the number designations for the negative was from 0 to 3, from 0 to 3. So that means that the designation for negative and positive in terms of possibility is the same, because there's 0, 1, 2, 3. And on the positive 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've achieved some fairness and we've achieved a better situation for representing positive, because surely if you get a 7 number, it's deemed to be positive. So you ask yourself, well, is putting a 0 in the negative a reasonable situation? I believe it is, because we've got a 10 there, and 10 is a perfect situation, whereas the 0 is an imperfect situation. So we've actually evened things up. We've got a better representation. I believe that's the way to go. So I believe that in fact there should be an option C in there that is 0 to 3 is negative, 4 to 6 neutral, and 7 to 10 positive. And I believe that is the way to go. And my question is, do you believe me?
The longest question I'm trying again, well done.
But it doesn't matter. I'm going to pick up the mood of the meeting, which I hope I've got right. We'll simply amend a B with the acceptance of the meeting. Why don't we amend B, item B, to read 0 to 3 instead of 1 to 3? I mean,
Sorry, so there's a couple of things here.
let me guess, there's no 0 option.
There's no 0 option. So that wasn't part of the scale that was presented last year, and wasn't part of the discussion we had when we reported the results back in December. And so the discussion I've had with Versus around this was a transition within the scale that we currently use, because we're also talking about benchmarking year on year. So to add in something that hasn't been included at all, I would have to go back and check that. I do take your point that there is a third option that could have got in there, Brian, and that is that it could be 1 to 4, 5 and 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10. So you've still got 4 at each end and then 2 neutral in the middle. So that option should have been presented.
But
as a
even
third
that's
option.
not this.
So what I'm saying is it's the appropriate time to look at a fundamental change where there's another option of a 0 added in would be after the 3rd year, when we're reviewing the use of the survey and how often we do it and how we might want to measure it.
So if I am, just for argument's sake, in a particularly pissy mood when contacted by Versus Research, and I said they're worth a bloody 0, what is my response put down as?
Oh, it would be a 1.
A 1. Councillor Malcolm, then Councillor Wilson.
Look, again, this is about benchmarking, and there is actually a fourth alternative that you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 9, as you know, all halfbacks are perfect anyway. So that's if you're realistically going to make it balanced, that's the way you'd be doing it. So, but I'm very comfortable with going to B, because we've got to stick within that system for the 3 years anyway to make sure we know where we're heading. So. But do appreciate my learned colleagues' Google expertise.
Councillor Wilson?
If it's maths, 3.
Thank you, Richard. The one question I've got is in here you talk about recasting the data to get continuity. There isn't a cost factor in that, and I'm just wondering.
No, it was recast last year when the comment was made, so it's not a difficult exercise for them to do.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Councillor Cole.
Just a quick question. I presume that we could drill down a bit if we were getting, for example, the same things each year, or we wanted to know whether they were actually the same. We could find out whether most of the positives were 7s rather than 10s, as it were. Can we look at that if we wanted to? I mean,
yeah, we could. So we have a suite of data. We're contracted with Versus to provide that summary report that you received last December. We'll receive that again this December. If there's a desire to really drill into that and get some specifics, we would have to just there'd be an additional cost, but we would go through that. The option's definitely there if we wanted.
Just that it seems to me that if it turned out that people were moving from a 7 to an 8, that's quite a significant thing for them to be doing. They're not just positive. 8 out of 10's pretty solid. Whereas 7 might be, I want to give them a message that they're sort of on the right track. So yeah. So thank you, Richard. Yes, you've answered my question. We can actually look further to see whether those categories are changing a wee bit internally.
Councillor Noon.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just to confirm, Richard, last year A was used in the survey.
That's correct. The status quo is A, and that was the results that were presented in that public report last year.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, the results from last year can be simply redone to
Yep.
make sure that the year-on-year continuity is.
That's right. So when we report this December, if the council takes option B or another alternative,
then last year
when
will
we
be passed.
when we present,
Yeah.
we would have the 2021 results
Yeah.
using the new scale
Yeah.
against the 2022 results using the new scale.
Right.
Oh, okay.
See, so in other words, it's apples with apples.
Correct. Which,
And
yeah,
the question that flows from that, from councillor Noons, obviously, is what's the survey size again? 2,000?
oh, that's testing me.
Pretty sure
Well, was it
is.
1,200?
1,200.
No.
15 might have been. No, you went for the highest option.
No, we went
You went for the highest
yeah.
option. Yeah, so there's 1,200, 1,500 and 2,000 and we went for the,
It was so that we
went
could
for the
break it
highest
down
one.
into wards.
That's
actually
right.
made, yeah,
That's right.
statistical sense.
Yeah.
Councillor Robertson,
I was just going to move the recommendations to open up.
which one would, okay, well, would you like to choose?
Yep,
I'll
B.
tell you what we'll do. We'll go
second
A,
B.
B, and I'll just go around the room. All right, on A and B. So councillor Robertson's moved all of the motions, but when we come to the second motion, yeah, number 2, whether we choose A and B, I'm just going to go around the room and ask each of you to choose
That's a
one.
question.
Unless there's a third option, unless
Yeah,
there's
I
a
moved
third
A, but
option,
anyway.
unless there's a third option.
Yeah.
You want to move?
I moved all the recommendations with B selected.
Okay.
Can I also ask a second question, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So to analyze, if we go for B, does that add any additional costs?
No.
Oh, excellent. Okay, cool.
Right, I am still going to go ABs. So remove the motion. Do I have a seconder for it? Yep, second to Councillor Malcolm. Cool. Yes. Now,
What about
I
a
want to
third-
speak. Now we've got a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to it.
Go for it, Brian.
So I've already made my point in relation to the negative being from 0 to 3. I mean, is there any thought around the table either to that, or as Richard pointed out, to that the negative is from 1 to 4 and that the neutral is from 5 to 6? Is there any appetite around that?
I'll back you on that one if you want.
Which one?
5 to 6. Oh, I think there's an option C. And it's
Which
1
is-
to 1 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 10.
Okay, well, I move that then.
Okay, so what we know, that'll be, listen, that's why I'm going to go around the table, because I want to get all this nonsense of where you move a motion, you lose one, then you put a new motion, you lose, it's all that nonsense. So I'm just going to, we've now got 2 people in this whole thing, around this room who want option C.
Yeah.
We've got somebody who's going to move option B. Are there any option A's?
Yeah, I'm option A.
There's always one. Okay,
Liz has got a question.
Liz is somewhere.
Online.
Liz, hello.
Good morning. I'm just double checking. So did Councillor Robertson make a motion choosing option B?
Yes, she did.
Okay, so that is on the table right now. Did we get a seconder for that motion?
I'm seconding that.
And so it's 6. Okay, so we've got an option, and it's options 1. So it's recommendations 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Thank you.
When we're going to come to 2, we're going to go around the table and have a division because the chair can call for one.
Can I just-
Actually, Gretchen moved B. And
Yes.
I've seconded B.
Yes, but I'm not going to go through that palaver. I've
No,
decided.
but that's the motions that are on the table.
Good luck. Sorry, I'm chairing this meeting. Sorry, we've got option 1 over here. Is there anybody else going on option A apart from Garrett? All right, good. So can I get a straw vote, please? That's the way I'll handle this. That's an
You
easy
just
way
go to a
around this.
division.
Okay, do a division.
And
You
then
want to do a
it's
division.
it's recorded.
You voted for a division? Point of order. Okay, there's easy. We've got a motion on the ground. We're going to do a division on all those in favour of motion 1. This is moved by Councillor Robertson, second by Councillor Calvert. Please say aye.
That's B.
Aye.
This is motion 1.
Division though.
This is motion 1.
Okay,
We're now moving to motion 2, which is adopts the following methodology. Keep up. So it is A or B. All those in favour of option A, please raise your hands. Councillor Callagher, please be noted, Liz. All those on option B, there's an option C coming up as well. That's 5.
Carmen.
Carmen,
Carmen.
Yes, I am option B. Thank you, Chair Laws.
Okay, and then option C, just the intelligent ones. Okay, so it's
I'm really
option
happy
B,
with that.
option B that's passed. All right, option now, motion 3, all those in favour? Against? please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. And option 4, ditto. Good. Thank you. Passed and carried. Now on to the next one, which is approach to engagement, much more important.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard, do you want to handle this as well? I know you are. Amanda. Yeah. Any questions? You've written, we'll take the paper that's been read by all of you. Are there any questions? It's a pretty generic paper, I have to say. It basically asked him to come back with something. So it's not really epochal. But if you want this motion, can I just say to all councillors to mean a bit more than it does, amend these motions today. So in other words, if you want to give a bit more clarity and the kind of communications engagement that you want. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much for this report, which has come out of something that I would have liked to have seen changed some time ago, and we're getting somewhere. The questions I have are around setting a time frame and priority. And when we moved this motion, we gave some examples, and I think there's some people wanting to see or be piloted doing this stuff. So I'm wondering if we should be incorporating into the recommendation, or if you can give us some assurance about timeframes and whether that would be possibly rolling it out in a pilot system. If you did this bigger, what is the timeframe for the bigger front piece of work?
Well, through the chair, we would look to do it as quickly as we could. I imagine we'd need the rest of the year and bring something back early next year. But in that last quarter of the year, we'd look to do a workshop with councillors to be testing priorities and testing goals and outcomes and actions. So the first point of engagement wouldn't be next year. There would be engagement this side of Christmas.
Okay, I think that's where the deficiency is in recommendation 2. So what essentially Councillor Wilson is looking for is a date that can come back in, and I think that's a reasonable request. The question is of you, Amanda, what would the date you put in there? So
we could February, March next year. I mean, we could say by 30th March 2023.
When does this go out for public consultation then?
Well, I think we'd taken the approach of that this particular process wouldn't go out for consultation. So it's
no. When does what we're consulting on? When does that go out? Can you remind me of what month that would be?
In terms of
The annual plan.
the annual plan.
Yeah.
So annual plan will probably go out for consultation March, April normally.
March, April.
And
So
then May normally there's
you want to
hearings.
be well ahead of that time, just in case. Yeah.
Yep.
So March next year, probably a bit too late, wouldn't it?
Okay, so we could aim for by the end of February.
Can I ask? It's a resourcing, and thank you very much for taking up my questions. It is the resourcing of this that if you have a strategy and you accept that and we all accept it, it then has to have a funding mechanism that then has to be consulted on. Now, and that is I think we need to work back from that annual plan. Otherwise, we're going to have another year of not having it done.
I was wanting to add in a resolution saying, and another bit to the recommendations saying that it should be considered in the annual plan, the financial implications of it in the annual plan. So when the annual plan process comes back to council, it has in it, here's costs and here's a variety of proposals for costs of it or whatever. So as it doesn't fall through the cracks and suddenly become an unbudgeted item if anyone wants to do anything.
Okay, then I'll take that as an option. If you could work on a period of words for that. At the moment, though, we've got
Do you want
thinking
to-
about giving us a date to motion 2. So I'll let you think about that. Councillor, while we talk, Councillor Scott.
Cool, it's on a separate
Yeah, go for your life.
complex
Next question.
question of the previous discussion. I'm generally supportive of some work being put in here and establishing a draft community engagement framework and implementation plan. I want to ask a specific question in relation to the liaison groups. So, I mean, what it says in paragraph 7 is that a consistent policy covering things like purpose, terms of reference, appointment processes. Remuneration surprised me, I must say, and internal resources. And the questions I suspect to Pim. I note that one of the challenges that we had with liaison groups, if you look at the TARI, and I think some of this has come from the TARI, is that, well, my perception, rightly or wrongly, is that the liaison groups were typically formed by some of the key owners and stakeholders, but often the general community and other stakeholders weren't necessarily represented. Well, that's my perception, and weren't necessarily represented on the liaison group. It was basically went to the diary, and it was there was a small group of landowners that actually were paying very significant rates, to be fair, and were involved in the flood scheme and so there was managing risk and all this. But there were other stakeholders that weren't necessarily. So there was always that balancing and the amount of effort that actually always had to go into this particular group. So like, maybe this is part of your work, but do you have any initial thoughts in terms of how you would frame liaison groups so that appropriate representation was actually part of it? And how do you get these people to turn up? And is remuneration really seriously being looked at for these groups? Like, or is it a blank sheet at this point?
Well, I think what we're saying here, Amanda might add to this, but there are ranges of engagement with our community, and even in the 3 months I've been here, I've heard on a number of occasions that council members are frustrated about how well we engage with various aspects of our business, and engagement's not straightforward. And as an example, integrated catchment management planning is something which we would see as more of an engagement process around catchment groups, for instance, than what we currently are doing with the Land and Water Region Plan, which is mostly around consultation. So one of the aspects of this paper for me was to try and define what we see as consultation and what we might see as community engagement. They're not the same. And sometimes we've got, the public sector is very good at consultation. They'll write a paper, I'll send it out for 2 weeks, you can write submissions on it, they'll take them into account if they feel like it, and mostly the paper doesn't seem to change much. That's consultation from the public sector often. Very different from engaging with the community where you're supporting a group of people to achieve an outcome, which is a longer and more intensive process. And what I was partly wanting to do was to try and define the difference, actually, and we've had a go at that in here, but it's responding really to some of your views on this, but also I have to say Amanda has picked the paper up, having been asked, the organisation being asked to respond around liaison committees and defining a way forward around engagement. It wasn't necessarily in Amanda's area, but I was very grateful that Amanda picked this up and actually has followed up with this paper. So, and I think she's done an excellent job. This is not the spectrum. It's not black and white. Do we consult? Do we engage? And similarly, whether we might choose to remunerate like they did in the zone committees in Canterbury or in the Whatua and Wellington. Those committees, the members were remunerated in the same way as council members might be for attending a meeting. But there might be lots of examples of engagement where we wouldn't need to pay people for coming to those meetings. So in an ideal world, yes, we'd try and make them representative, so that we're not just meeting with the 5 largest ratepayers in the Taieri Plain, that we are meeting with people who might be representing the urban or the residential part of ratepayers in that area. But I don't think we're establishing strict rules around these, are we, Amanda? We're not trying to do that. We're trying to accept the fact that there's a difference between consultation and engagement, and then allow us to think about what might be appropriate for a particular circumstance. It won't always be, I don't think we'll always have a cookie cutter approach to this. It won't always be one model. Is my thinking on this. Amanda, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree, but I think we're also part of the rationale for this is developing some sort of consistency across the organisations. I think it's probably about providing definitions of the different types of liaison groups, working groups, short-term, long-term, committee, and along the IAP structure. I mean, as Pim says, there's lots of variations, and so if we can create some working definitions so that organisationally we've got a consistent approach, so that someone participating in this particular group doesn't get offered any remuneration, but then finds out that actually we've got some representatives on this other group where we are offering remuneration, that's not ideal from an engagement perspective
Might
either.
not
on
be.
the same group.
Yeah, or in the same group, yeah.
Depends a little bit on inputs as well.
Yes.
But yeah, a consistent approach within a range of options.
Absolutely.
And also some of this is also around the frustration that I've noticed from some councillors that have sometimes been to community meetings and we may or may not have staff there. And what role councillors might play in that relationship, because some of it is operational. You know, engaging with the community and supporting them to achieve the outcome that they want is actually still an operational activity, but we would see the benefit of having council members who have that relationship often with those communities and actually have a responsibility as elected representatives.
Yes, it's also a governance responsibility.
Exactly, to have some input into those.
Yeah.
Without necessarily being confused through the staff responsibilities, which would report through to me. So there is a challenge in there in terms of the fact that I wouldn't want councillors to be instructing staff as to how to respond to those groups. So there is a challenge in there because there's an operational aspect as well as your responsibility to your constituents. And that tension in itself creates a bit of a challenge for me. So we've done some thinking about that.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you. I think this is really useful. I think it's going to take us to a really good place. But I am just trying to understand timing wise at the end of a triennium, and I understand annual plans coming up, so why we're trying to do it right now. But the question for you, Pam, is this purely an operational type of framework for internal use, which is kind of what I think its recommendation 2 says, that it's notes that it's a mechanism for ORC to organise itself internally. Or do you see it more what paragraph 6 suggests is that the paper, allows it, the framework and implementation plan allows us to focus on identifying our overarching objective policies and then actions, which are more operational. So is this a governance type of thing where we decide, hey, as ORC, we want to do it this way. These are our objectives, our visions for how we work with our community. Or are you implementing ones we've already come up with? Because this seems like a job for a new council if it's it is the first one, which is a governance role. So yeah, can you explain more about what this is?
Yeah, sort of more operationally, funnily enough. Amanda, how did you see it?
Well, I see it as a mix. I think it will encompass both those things. I think for us to organise ourselves internally, we need to have a governance agreed sense of prioritisation and overall objectives. So I'd see it as both of those things, and that's why it would come back to the new council. We'd look to do a workshop, and just thinking on time frame, I think we should be aiming to bring a draft back by the 9th of December, for this side of Christmas, so that we are giving ourselves enough time to then work with an annual plan. And it won't be a perfect document on that mid-December. It would be a working.
So you have a follow-up question.
So, yeah, sorry. So then just flagging then that the recommendation 2 that the chief executive develops it and brings it back for council consideration and approval probably doesn't capture the fact that he needs to seek right at the very beginning input from governors into him helping him to develop that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it'll be a new council, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, rather than you do it and then it comes to get stamped.
Well, no, but the other way that can I add to that is we've been talking about a workshop, as I understand it. Amanda, you mentioned that word, which is a workshop that will be undertaken by the newly elected council. So it won't be happening before the end of this council. So that workshop will happen.
Well, I think what we're going to do, if this approach is adopted, we've signalled that we'll probably need consultant support for this to get the work done. So we would do that part this side of the elections, and then once the new council's in place, we'd embed it into the induction program. And in the meantime, be working up some options to support that workshop and then bring a draft back. Sorry, I thought I'd put, I thought I'd added a recommendation in talking about a workshop, but I haven't, but it looks like it's one there now.
There was no, yeah. Oh.
Have you got a workshop? Where is it?
Yeah.
You've got one?
Yeah, just put the 9th in before. I wasn't aware of the date. Just put 9th of December. Right.
Yeah, it's item 2.
That's a story.
Yeah.
Oh, Liz, sorry, Liz. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that answers your question, Gretchen.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
I wouldn't want to rush this, by the way, because this is something I think has been frustrating all of us for some time.
Yeah.
So workshop's a really good idea because we can get the feedback from council members.
Yeah.
So while I see it operational, it's partly operational because it's around the way we work with our communities at an operational level. And there's an opportunity there for council to support that work.
Absolutely.
And that's a tricky thing, as I already explained, in terms of ensuring that we use you guys in the most effective way for the organisation, actually.
Well, at the end of the day, there are 12 people sitting around a table who have been elected to serve their constituents, and they are the constituents' voices. So those are the most important people we'll start with, and then off we go. We all know that, so that's good. Who would like to, you'll move all 5? Or what are we doing?
I'm not sure the 9th of December and the second one now is as relevant, because maybe that if you're going to have a workshop by the 9th or in December.
I think we're asking two, these motions are asking 2 different things, Kate. One's a sort of a doey thing, number 2, about what you're going to do. The other one's a more sort of generic, this is what we'd like to achieve. So a bit more aspirational, particularly number 3 and 4.
So workshop will have to happen before December.
That's correct. Yeah, but well, the issue is here that you've got to decide today is basically a principal decision. Are you going to have one? Yeah, that's the first decision today. And the second question is, if you are, what's the process that you're going to use to get there? Okay, so these motions could be done in a different way, but you know what those motions mean.
I'd just recommend taking out an approval out of number 2, because I think that suggests that on the 9th of December you'd be considering a framework and approving it.
So take out, so just for council consideration. Yeah. Well, you can't, yes, you can't make a decision.
So
workshop
that's
anyhow.
covers the same thing. Happy to move.
Right. Well, I've got a mover.
So second.
Got a seconder. Any further discussion? Would anybody like to discuss this matter? Kate, do you really want to?
I do.
Okay.
Out on the hustings, this is our engagement. And I'm not going to blame staff because it's been hell with COVID, but we need to be doing better on this. We have put people's rates up substantially, and they're not seeing or understanding or hearing about the value because we aren't engaging as well as we can. Now, I'm not blaming anyone. There's not a particular science to this. It's not perfect, but we need to make sure that we can do this better and really focus on this. This is where we build trust. This is where we build our own personal reputations as councillors, but also as an organisation. And I'm sorry I am speaking to it, Michael, but I actually do think we need to be really clear why we're doing this. And I think we've got a long way to improve in that area. And that's why I'm frustrated that this has taken so long, but I'm absolutely delighted to see it having some focus. Thank you very much, Pam.
And just to endorse Councillor Wilson's comments, look, we have changed the ORC in this training considerably. We've geared it up to make it fit for purpose, and we're on that journey, and we've got to make sure that we've actually got our community coming with us and understanding what our community is doing and how we can work with them. So the concentration now on how we get that engagement going correctly and to its best level, it's a very fitting time to do this. So it'll be a really exciting challenge for the new council and a really exciting time for our staff to get to mesh all that together. So well done bringing that to us. Good paper. Let's get it underway and let's get that engagement, actual engagement going with our community. So thanks very much.
Councillor Cole.
Just briefly, I see this as coming as bringing a whole lot of the strands of our organisation together in the best way. This is staff, it's our CE, it's us, it's our community, all having sort of got together and thought, this is something that we need to do. And so this is coming from, that's what a proper team should be doing. So I think it's excellent. And what will happen with this, because of the timing of things, is that it will outlast the ideas that will be developed here, will outlast potentially a chair, the council, the chief executive, and anybody else around the place. So this is it's a message to our community that this is how we want our organisation to be from all of us. So good work bringing this to us.
Just asking if Councillor Hope, do you want to add anything to this, Carmen, at all? Just making a cup of tea. Yeah. Anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Milne?
Yeah, just the point around when we talked 3 years ago and looked at what we wanted to achieve. You know, we talked about being better connected with our community, better engaged, better in terms of responding to the community's needs. So I think what this does, it helps to formalise a mechanism to achieve all those objectives. So yeah, very supportive.
Anybody else? I'll just finish by saying that one of the values that we adopted, I think, early on in the first triennium was the values of openness, honesty, and transparency, which are critical to maintaining trust with the people that we rate and serve. And I just compliment Amanda and Pim for bringing this here. It's an excellent paper. It's been made a little bit better as a result of council intervention today, and it will, I'm sure, allow us to meet the values that we aspired to 3 years ago. The motion has been moved by Councillor Curl, all motions have been moved by Councillor Curl, but they have been seconded as amended by Councillor Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, it is passed unanimously. It's worthy of noting. I should chair all these meetings. That's the last of our business today. Thank you very much for your
As long
involvement.
as we don't get all of this.
That's right. And we will be meeting again at 1 o'clock for the full council.
I'm sorry,
Thank
Councillor,
you.
we need to go into public excluded.
Oh, that's too quick. All right, this meeting, part of the meeting is over.
I'll move.
So moved by Councillor Milton, seconded by Councillor Milton, that we move into public excluded
Just
for the purpose of
We just stay on, Liz, do we?
just on minutes. Yes, it'll take about 5 seconds.
Yes, Councillor.
Okay.